أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وهو القاهر فوق عباده ويرسل عليكم حفظة حتى إذا جاء أحدكم الموت توفته رسلنا وهم لا يفرطون ثم ردوا إلى الله مولاهم الحق ألا له الحكم وهو أسرع الحاسبين صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين. I bear witness that no God is there without Allah. I bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the last, the final messenger of Allah, after whom no prophet, old or new, will come. And I begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. These verses from chapter 6 that I've recited, I translate and interpret as follows. He, that is Allah, He is the subjugator, meaning one who makes everything to serve Him. He is the subjugator over His worshippers. He eases upon them caretakers. Then, when passing away comes upon one of you, our couriers complete his or her lifespan, and they are not negligent. Then they are referred to Allah, their patron, the real one. He has the ability to put affairs right, and He is quick in giving what is sufficient, what is enough. Religion is very simple and has been given to us by Allah in a very simple way. It is human beings who have made religion complicated. Allah has always sent prophets with a simple message: His oneness and the personality of the Prophet, to demonstrate how His attributes can be implemented, can be put into effect, so that it makes every human being a good person, and by extension, society, community. Contrary to that, if you don't develop the divine attributes, you become ungodly. That is, you do not have divine attributes, and that is called, at least I interpret that to mean the meaning of the word shirk, which is opposite to Allah. Allah means the being that possesses all attributes. Shirk is the human being refusing to dip himself, to immerse himself, to baptize himself, to color himself with divine attributes, and do just the opposite. So that if one is required to love, an individual does the opposite, he or she hates. If Allah's attribute is that of charity, the individual develops meanness and stinginess. So the opposite of the attributes of Allah is what the Quran describes and what we interpret to mean shirk or ungodliness. Religion is simple in that Allah has put just two basic principles to the world. Allah, la ilaha illallah. There is no God without the attributes of Allah. Nothing can be God without, unless it has attributes, good attributes, the attributes of Allah. Nothing. And the Quran also indicates to us that Muhammad Rasulullah, that those attributes are not just somewhere in outer space. They are not physical. They are not existing in anything in the world except in human beings. And so Muhammad is the individual that demonstrates how these attributes can make an individual perfect. What relevance it has to the development of the human being, the human personality, the human character. And every prophet of God has done the same. So that the Quran is pointing out to us that Allah is the one who sends messengers. And the word arsala, that means send messengers, means he sends easily, he transmits with ease. And it says here, therefore, that even though there is no compulsion in religion, it doesn't mean that Allah has no control over the world. He lets people do whatever they want. There's no compulsion. You're free to do whatever you want. So by telling us he is Qahir, he's the subjugator, he's the one who makes everything serve him, it does not take away from his power of control. That Allah controls our evolution, our development, whether in a good way, whether in a bad way. The choice is ours. There's no compulsion. But we can't just do good and expect a result. We can't do bad and do a result. That is in accordance with the laws of Allah, so that certain things you do good will have a result. If, for example, or anyone is charitable to another person, the result would be that the person will be grateful, will be appreciative. And similarly, if you're hostile to someone, they may want to take revenge. So there are certain consequences and results based upon our action, and these are in accordance with the laws of Almighty Allah. So the Quran says Allah's attitude is always to convey with ease, not complicity, not difficulty. And he gives us what is called hafaza, from the word hifz or hafiz. In other words, the Quran is teaching us that Allah's concern is to take care of all of us, whether good or bad. He has created us and he takes care of us, but he gives us a choice as to how much of his care we can benefit from and how much we can refuse. And what are the consequences and the results of being under his care, and what are the results of being away from his care. So Allah cares for all, everyone, even for those who reject him. So the Quran points out to us that, look, we know that every day we shut our eyes. And when we shut our eyes, there are two things that can happen to us, one of two things. Either we return to Allah, the Quran tells us this, that when we sleep, he can take our souls, and those upon whom the decree of death has not been passed, he returns them. So one of two things happens to us every time we shut our eyes, every day. We don't have to get into an accident. We don't have to be a victim of war. We don't have to be a victim of crime. The moment we shut our eyes, we either return to Allah or we return to this life. And that awareness of the presence of God, the fact that he subjugates us, he makes us serve him, he makes us his servants. So Allah returns souls after sleep, even if they are bad. It doesn't mean that he only causes those to return to him who are wicked, and those who are good he will send back in this world. No. He returns souls after sleep, even if they are bad. So the good or bad, it is accordance with his laws. Likewise, even in certain situations that we experience in the world, whether that situation is good or whether that situation is bad. We may be diagnosed with some disease, some fault. We may realize we are in economic hardships or financial hardships or legal problems or so. But he's always in control. That is something, a thought we must always keep in our minds, that we are always under his jurisdiction, as he neither sleeps, nor rests, nor dies. Anyone else who can assist us cannot assist us every moment. They need to rest. They have other things to do as well. But Allah, even though He has to look after billions of people now, and even if He is looking after people who have gone before, or even planning for those who will come in the future, He neither sleeps, nor rests, nor dies. And the Quran points out to us that every action we perform, whether good or bad, they are not lost. There are some people who think that if I do good, well, there's no benefit. And if I do bad, there's nobody to know. I get away with it. But the Quran indicates to us that every deed is registered. And the record of our deeds is a reality. We know it can even be done with technology, and in some cases even with hypnosis. We know you can record a person. We have records, and we have videos, we have audio, songs and so on of people who have died 10, 20, 50 years ago. And even before that, we do have records of people who, through archaeology, people dig up and they see writings in the pyramids and in other parts of the world. They see the way in which people construct buildings and temples and other things. So that what people do, some of it we see as human beings, we see recorded, we see it registered in some way or form. But in the case of Allah, everything is registered. So after that, human beings become aware that Allah is a true controller of everything. We may not be able to see it in this world, but certainly when we die and we return to Him, we will understand and be aware of the fact that He is the controller of everything, and His decision, when He makes a decision, is faster than the computation of any computer. We see how fast computers are getting faster and faster to be able to make calculations. And the Quran says He makes an account, and he's quick in making his account. It's instant. We see in technology today how much faster we can do things compared to long ago. And so we should not be really disturbed if we see we are faced with challenges, because He can quickly remove from us what the Quran calls zulumat, that is darknesses. It's a plural, and it applies to tragedies in our lives, challenges in our lives, issues that may be negative to our development. He can quickly remove them. Now, we need to understand what the Quran means by Allah can remove from us calamities and difficulties. It does not always mean that the calamity will entirely go away. For example, a person may suffer disease. It doesn't mean the disease will go away. What can go away is our fear of the result of disease. What can go away is the effect of the disease on us, that we can manage it, we can live with it. So sometimes the disease is not removed, but we are given the strength to manage it. And similarly with financial problems and legal problems, or so many a time, the issues are not removed. As I said, sometimes, if there's a storm, there are two things you can do. Pray to God to stop the storm, to calm the storm, or pray to Allah to calm yourself. So the storm is there, but you become fearless, you become calm, you're able to manage things. And usually in times of crisis, people say, be calm, be patient. When it comes to issues in our lives that we have to deal with and we find it difficult to manage them, Allah is usually the last resort for those in trouble. But when it passes away, we know sometimes that we are in difficulty, and therefore we turn to other people. And when they cannot help, when we have tried everything, then we say, okay, let's go to God. For those who believe in Allah, they turn to Allah. Those who believe in other gods also, thinking they have the qualities and the attributes to manage, they turn to them as well. But we turn to Allah because we know He's the subjugator, He's Qahir. He can render anything submissive to Him and subservient to Him, and make anything serve Him, not only human beings, but every cell, every medication, every process, He can make them submissive to Him. But the Quran says that once those challenges, those difficulties, those tragedies pass away, very often people go back to their previous ways. So that is why there is a verse of the Quran that tells us one of the attributes of Allah is Tawwabur Rahim. He is Tawwab. The word Tawbah, from which we get the word Tawbah, we translate it as repent, but it means to make an about turn. That you're going in a particular direction and it's wrong, so you turn around, you change direction. That word is going to be very important tomorrow when we discuss the issue of the Ark of the Covenant and what the Quran speaks about it, for the word is used both in Hebrew as well as in English, as well as in Arabic, on what in fact is, what words derive from Tawbah and how it applies to the covenant that we have with Allah. So the Quran is indicating to us that in order to avoid going back to what we were doing before, we need to do Tawbah, we need to do an about turn. And it further goes on to indicate to us that in spite of Allah's help to us, and we see His help, we get over, sometimes just temporarily, we find we have what is called, we get over a disease or financial problem or challenge, or we get escape from a death on the highway, an accident or so, because we made the wrong turn or wrong decision to speed up or whatever it may be. But in spite of Allah's help, many people return to shirk, which I interpret, as I said, as ungodliness. Instead of developing further qualities of God, some people, they get away from a situation, they become more arrogant, they become more unkind, they become more offensive. So that these are the qualities that are against and opposite to the attributes of Allah. So moving back to shirk, or returning to shirk, as the Quran describes it, means moving away from developing the divine attributes to developing ungodly ways. That is the opposite of Allah's attributes. So our choice in life really, whatever I do, whether in religion, whether in my home or family, in my job, anything that I do, it must have an effect upon, a positive effect upon me, getting more of Allah's attributes in my life. And each and every one of us must be conscious of that. Everything that we do that goes contrary to the attributes of Allah is what we will call shirk. But the Quran also indicates to us Allah is not only Qahir, that is the one who makes everything subservient to Him, but He is also Qadir. From the word Qadar we know. And it is the word Qadir means one who possesses the ability to cause things to function. In order to subjugate things, in order to make things follow His rules and instruction and order, He has to cause things to function, or to function, not to function. Sometimes He has to cause things not to function within certain limitations. So the Quran is a book that describes in detail Allah's attributes to understand them and how they interact in our lives. It does not mean that Allah's attributes doesn't include punishment. For example, we say God is merciful and therefore God will not punish us. After all, acquiring the opposite of His attributes is what punishes people, and that is what Allah's punishment is. It's not that He has a big stick or He has something that is there waiting for us, as some people say. When I was small, I remember say when you die and you're being punished, you'll be put in a river or sea of pus and boiling water and fire and all of these things. But the Quran points out to us that acquiring the opposite of His attributes is what punishes people. So the moment you develop attributes which are contrary and opposing to Allah's attributes, you walk in the path of self-punishment. And if we know that there are natural disasters outside, that may be punishment or not, depends upon how we manage it. So if natural disasters and do not harm us or destroy us, we sometimes can be destroyed by other human beings. So don't think if a person gets away from a natural disaster, we escape from an earthquake or tsunami and so on, that everything is okay, God has favored us, God has blessed us, Allah has blessed us. He says, no, you will get circumstances that affect you from above you and from below you, or you will end up in different parties, as the Quran says in this section of chapter 6 of the Quran, from verse 60 onwards. And those above you who punish you means those with higher qualities can put you to shame. If a person is better than you, you look small in front of them. And that sometimes offends people. You see it in children. If they fail to make use of their time at school and their studies and their homework or so, when the results come out and they see children who probably may have looked down upon, perhaps less fortunate than them, may not have come from a home in which they had so many amenities, and yet still they pass and they surpass them. And they feel a sense of shame, as it were, a sense of embarrassment that, look, people I look down upon are now above me. And the Quran also says those below you can bring down chastisement. And below you means those over which you think you had control. They either abandon you or they turn against you. And we see so in so many political leaders, military leaders and others, dictators. They manage and they control an individual. They do whatever they want, however they want. And then the people who are under them, who they are subjugating, who they are controlling, who they are making slaves, as it were, they turn against them. And that is one of the ways in which they suffer. Or that they may end up in different groups, the Quran says, and they begin fighting each other. And this is what we see in the world today. You look at wars. Two countries of the world that belong to two people that belong to the same landmass, and they end up as opposing each other to the extent that they'll kill each other. We are seeing it in the world right now. So the Quran is reminding us and indicating to us that we must depend upon no other but Allah and His attributes. Focus on the attributes of Allah. Without the attributes of Allah, nothing can be your God. Nothing. La ilaha illallah. Without Allah's attributes, nothing can serve as a God for you. But at the same time, the Quran reminds us, and Allah tells us, never deny the accountability of your actions, because ungodly ways destroy us, and godly ways strengthen us to face any challenges in life. Religion is simple. Human beings have made it complicated by putting up rules and regulations and rituals and so on. Those things come afterwards and have to be utilized in the context of the simplicity of religion. That is, you have Allah presents Himself and He has to explain to you what His attributes are. You either develop them, and if you refuse and you develop the opposite of them, then those ungodly ways will destroy you. And if you develop the attributes of Allah, it gives you a renewed strength to face any challenge in life. Physical, moral, spiritual, health, financial, whatever. That is something, that's a truism. That is something we can see on a daily basis, if not in our own lives, in the lives of other people as well. So there are examples before us the Quran has given, in so many cases, lives of prophets and other people as well. Allah does not favor some people more than others. It is the extent of the development of His attribute within us that gives us the ability to endure any challenges in life. How much of God's attributes I have within me. And the Quran does not merely tell us that, look, this will happen or that will happen as a result of your actions. It gives you a prophecy sometimes, which has a particular time span, or sometimes no time span. Or for that matter, the Quran says every prophecy really has a time span in which the consequences are either removed or fulfilled. So if something happens to you, whatever happens to you, the prophecy is there is a time span. Within a certain time frame, you will either get better or you can become worse. We have the choice to determine what will happen to us based upon the information given to us in the Quran. And the greatest strength we have is the attributes of Allah, because those are the attributes that belong to Him. Medicines can assist us temporarily. Wealth can assist us temporarily. It will run out eventually. The attributes of Allah does not run out. If I have within my heart love, there's no limit to it. If I have charity and kindness and mercy and forgiveness, it is only if I choose to change that and develop the opposite, and I spend my life in hatred and revenge and meanness or so. Once I do that and I live my life, that is what will bring about difficulties within myself and in the community and society. And the Quran is pointing out to us that the time span that we are given, in which we can either have challenges removed or they will have a fulfillment, that time span is an opportunity to reverse the bad choices that we may make, or for the situation to either improve or to become a good one, to improve and become a good one, or to result in something which is detrimental to us. And we see that even among Muslims. It doesn't mean because you belong to Islam or belong to the Ahmadiyya movement, or you belong to whatever it is, you're Sunni or Shia or so, or you're Christian or you're Hindu, that everything will be all right and hunky-dory with you, everything will be fine because you are following God's religion. Because even among Muslims, there are those who scoff at the truth. We have to deal with truth and reality. Allah is called Al-Haq, the real one. The word Haq in Arabic is translated as true, and true is true. That is, I'm sure people don't usually fix their own bicycles now, but long ago, when you're fixing your bicycle and you have the wheel, to make sure it goes into the fork that is holding it, you spin it and you make sure that it's in proper alignment. And we say you're true in the wheel. You're making it true, bring it in alignment. So Allah is Haq means we can bring ourselves in alignment with His attributes. So that you look at the Ahmadiyya movement, for example. Are there Muslims who turn against this organization? For what reason? Many of them don't know. They have not studied it. They have not read it. There are some people who look at, the organization and its teaching and so on, admire it. But they scoff at the truth. They begin to say, you're not a Muslim. Your founder is a prophet. And begin to say so many things. Once I heard a person said, he died in a toilet, and all these kinds of remarks are being made. They scoff at the truth. Until when they begin to see sense, and until they begin to see some kind of understanding, the Quran says better to turn away. When people begin to mock you, or your religion, or your values, or your family, or your country, or your nation, they belittle you, turn away from them. Be proud of the principles that you uphold and the values that you maintain, and turn away for those who offend you because they don't agree with those principles. So we have to first of all set forth what are our principles, the principles of truth and alignment. And when people agree with us, may not follow it, but at least they realize that what we are following are true principles, no problem, we interact with them. But if they scoff at us, and if they belittle us because of the principles, because they don't agree with those principles, it is better to stay away from them until they can change their attitude and change their mind. So what the Quran is indicating to us, and this is a word that is often used in the Quran, we earn rewards. The word earn, kasab. Laha ma kasabat wa alayka ma kasabat. This is what you earn, or you're entitled to. What we earn as reward and what we earn as punishment is really what our soul or character is dipped in, is steeped in. Remember, the Quran says, Sibgat Allah. That is, immerse yourself, dip yourself with the attributes of Allah. So, a person can dip himself into the attributes of Allah, go into these attributes and allow them to develop within his or her personality, or you can develop just the opposite. Developing the attributes of Allah is a reward. It gives you peace of mind, it gives you calmness. Challenges are there around us. Everyone is faced with them, good or bad. How we deal with them depends upon what is inside of us. And this is what religion really is. This is where Islam benefits us. Either we develop within us the attributes of Allah, or its opposite. So that lacking the attributes of Allah always puts us, or we put ourselves actually, in what is called hot water. We use that expression, hot water. The Quran uses the terminology hamim. The word hamim, for which we get hammam, which means a hot bath, it means boiling water or hot water. And hamim means constantly in hot water. So a person who is arrogant, a person who is vengeful, a person who is always filled with hate, they always get themselves in hot water. So it is not that when we die, we'll be put in some kind of pit or lake or sea or river in which there's boiling water. And what is being punished? The body is returned to the world. It doesn't feel any pain when you die. You put a person to sleep, they can take out their heart and put it back in. They don't feel any pain. So how come after death we will feel pain when Allah takes our soul and the body is there rotted or burnt or whatever it may be? So what the Quran is indicating is our own inner feelings, our attitude, that we are in hamim, constantly in hot water, and we see that. With neighbors who are quarreling, or people who are fighting, and countries and nations that are always at war with each other, they're always in hot water. No solution, they can't find peace. There's no peace, they can't negotiate peace even. It takes months, years, but they're killing each other in the interim. They're always in hot water. Every time they do something, instead of solving the problem, they get more and more deeper into the problem. So the Quran indicates to us and points out to us that human beings have a tendency to forget due to negative influences, what is called shaitan, the devil. There are things around us that cause us to forget. And so to counteract that, because there are so many things that are there that are negative, preventing us from acknowledging and recognizing our responsibilities and our duty and our behavior and our actions, the Quran tells us to do zikr. And zikr means to display the attributes of Allah, the zikrullah, what is called the remembrance of Allah. So when we do zikr, it means not merely uttering in words, subhanallah, Allahu Akbar, and so on. Yes, these also enhance our memory. And it's good perhaps for later on in life when we be free from dementia and Alzheimer's and so on, because we are always remembering Allah, remembering the attributes of Allah, remembering our duties and responsibilities, remembering the kindness we have to do to our spouse, to our children, to our family, to our neighbors, and so on. So human beings have a tendency to forget because of the influences, the negative influences outside of them, detracting us. And therefore, we have to do the opposite of that. We have to do zikr, always constantly remember Allah, the attributes of Allah, in word as well as in behavior, in action. This is how religion becomes so simple for us. That is why Islam is a religion, is needed in today's world. It needs to change people's outlook and attitude about the purpose and function of religion in making the human being a good human being and making society a perfect and complete society. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Azim wa nafa'ana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikr al-hakim. Innahu ta'ala jawadun kareem malikun barrur raufur rahim. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inahu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlil fala hadiya lahu wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa nashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Allahumma Salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma ansur man nasara deen Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wajalna minhum. Allahumma aghzul man qazala deen Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa la tajalna minhum. Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsani wa ita'i zil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkari wal baghi. يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله على أكبر.